She's spooked.
Louise, you're getting cereal everywhere.
I'm having a seizure. Put a wallet in my mouth. It passed.
Look at this place. It's a disaster. You haven't even fixed the leak yet.
Come on, Linda, the leak is contained.
Bobby!
What? You barely noticed those.
I'm okay.
There have been a lot of animated sitcoms throughout the years, with some iconic names such as The Simpsons, King of the Hill, Futurama, and going back to 1960 for The Flintstones, which was the first animated sitcom and also the first animated show to air in a primetime slot on American television. The most popular animated sitcoms have usually followed the playbook set out by the Flintstones 65 years ago, which is a copy of the popular 1950s sitcom The Honeymooners. In this style, we encounter a nuclear family unit where the father is a borderline moron who usually creates the bulk of the conflict but usually ends up solving the issue via an endearing gesture which is designed to remind the audience that he is indeed a good person. Then there is the mother, who is usually the voice of reason and the foil to the father's hijinks, usually in place to become the character the audience can relate to. The children are given personalities that clash with their parents to create tension and develop plot points around the nature of their relationship with their parents. Surrounding the family unit is a cast of quirky characters that are meant to bring life and color to the community. This has been the template that shows like Family Guy, American Dad, and The Simpsons have been using for decades, and even when shows diverge from it, they still keep some of the characterization elements present to add familiarity to their shows with audience. I'm looking at you, King of the Hill and Futurama. Ever since its debut, Bob's Burgers has completely gone against this conventional wisdom by deciding to portray something that was not present in other animated sitcoms: a family that loves each other. Bob's Burgers completely abandons the dysfunction that drives its contemporary shows by instead focusing on the positive relationships between the family members. Bob might get frustrated at Gene but will never resort to choking him like Homer and Bart. Tina might be stuck in the confusing teens, which causes her to act irrationally from time to time, but despite this, no one in the family is mean to her and she isn't a punching bag, unlike Meg on Family Guy. The Simpsons made the dysfunctional family dynamic famous, and Bob's Burgers made it uncool. To understand why Bob's Burgers has been consistently getting better over time, you have to look at the mistakes that other shows have made and how Bob's Burgers has avoided them. With any show that goes on for a long period of time, it is obvious that the characters will evolve. This can be caused by a change in the writing staff, popular culture, and even network-mandated changes. These changes sometimes lead to a phenomenon that is called Flanderization, named after Ned Flanders on The Simpsons. Flanderization is the process through which a fictional character's essential traits are oversimplified to the point where they constitute their entire personality, or at least exaggerated, while other traits remain throughout a serial work. The term Flanderization was coined by TV tropes about Ned Flanders of The Simpsons, who was caricatured over the show's run from a friendly and good-hearted neighbor, among other characteristics, while maintaining his Christian faith, into a dogmatic, evangelical Bible thumper. Flanders goes from being the perfect neighbor in the beginning of the series to being portrayed as an anti-vax religious zealot in later seasons. All attributes that made him a well-rounded character are watered down and replaced with this new version of his personality that takes him from being a likable foil to Homer to being a character that you would block on Facebook. Flanderization doesn't just happen on The Simpsons. Other shows experience the same phenomenon. Brian and Peter on Family Guy, Kevin on The Office, and most annoying of all, Peggy Hill on King of the Hill. Peggy starts as a well-meaning but somewhat arrogant substitute teacher, but over time becomes a complete narcissist who would even go as far as to sabotage her own son's happiness to make herself look good. Peggy goes from a relatable and likable character in the beginning of the series to one of the most hated characters at the end of it. Flanderization is often seen as a bad thing because it reduces complex characters into exaggerated caricatures by focusing on a single trait. This process strips away the depth, nuance, and emotional range that made the character compelling in the first place. For example, a character who initially had a mix of strengths, flaws, and evolving motivations might become defined solely by one quirk or behavior, like being overly religious, nerdy, or greedy, for the sake of easy humor or familiarity. As a result, the character becomes predictable and one-dimensional, which can make their role in the story feel stale and repetitive. Additionally, Flanderization can harm the overall quality of a show or series by weakening the narrative and emotional stakes. When characters stop growing and instead become stereotypes of themselves, it can break the audience's connection to the story. Viewers are less likely to invest in plot lines that hinge on exaggerated behaviors rather than authentic choices or development. Over time, this can lead to a decline in critical reception and fan engagement, as the show feels like it's pandering to surface-level gags rather than telling meaningful stories. The Flanderization trap is one that many shows fall into, but Bob's Burgers has avoided this by making very simple and obvious character tweaks that give great tonal shifts in the series. While we can observe this in various characters in the show, we are going to highlight Bob and Louise to show how the characterization has gotten better the longer the show has been on the air. Bob is the patriarch of the Belcher family and somehow both a loving father and the voice of reason within the show. This is very uncommon for an animated sitcom because the fathers are portrayed as well-meaning idiots like Homer Simpson or stoic bastions of masculinity like Hank Hill. So, just by existing, Bob is a subversion of this trait. Even though this is obvious in the early seasons, a lot of the humor around Bob came from him crashing out after being frustrated by events outside his control, his family, and his friends. His anger became the driving force behind his humor, but around season 4, there starts a slow tonal shift around him as a character. While his crash outs are still there, they aren't as frequent or as explosive. Instead, over time, we explore Bob's relationship with his wife, his in-laws, his children, his father, and his friends, especially Teddy. We get to see how his childhood working at his father's restaurant shaped his approach to friendships, how he doesn't want his kids to have the same fate, the foundation of his relationship with Teddy, among other things. While other shows would have dialed up his aggression and crash outs to look for more laughs, the writers tone it down here while adding more details that enrich Bob as a character. The changes are subtle over time, but they grow him as a character by adding new quirks that don't contradict his past. This means that Bob becomes a better person over time while staying true to his character. This can be seen in the season 5 finale, The Eater Games, where Bob decided to ally with his sworn enemy, Jimmy Pesto, to go against a rent hike. While Bob has usually succumbed to Jimmy's unusual demands to make his kids happy, he adds a new layer to his character by advocating for the greater good, even though it means working with characters that he is at odds with. This is something that would have been inconceivable in the early seasons. For Louise, her character arc mirrors Bob's in the same way, over time softening her and making her a more multifaceted character. The youngest Belcher is introduced as the anarchist of the group, with a penchant for destruction and damage, inappropriate jokes that border on the offensive, and an extreme attitude that is reminiscent of the 90s. Let's not forget she once tried to cut off Gene's ear and almost electrocuted Tina. While these aspects of her were the driving force behind her gags, over time, they were toned down to reflect a more well-rounded character. She is still the anarchist of the show, but mainly in situations that require it, like the one-eyed snake episodes. Instead of doubling down on what made her popular, the writers added new layers to her character, like her crush on Boo Boo, the boy band member, her love for her toys, her growing relationship with her family, and most importantly, her relationship with Rudy. The season 14 episode, The Amazing Rudy, is the culmination of all the character improvements that Louise has experienced across the show, which ends up delivering one of the most emotional and well-written episodes in the show's history. Seriously, it's an amazing episode. While in other animated sitcom shows, the characters become caricatures of themselves over time, Bob's Burgers goes in the complete opposite direction by toning down any overbearing attributes of the main cast and slowly adding character traits throughout the episodes that make them more interesting, relatable, and unique. More important than adding these character traits is that they remain that way in the following episodes. Once a character is shown to be loving, empathetic, or even irritable, they don't change back or get retconned, it becomes a part of who they are. This continuity has allowed for the growth of multifaceted characters and has allowed the show to feel fresh even after 15 seasons on the air. This allows the audience to feel a sense of connection with the characters on the show. As we get older, we tend to lose the things that connected us to some of our favorite characters. We outgrow our favorite shows and get new ones that match our maturity and worldview. Bob's Burgers stays with us throughout the years because the characters grow with you. They get better as you do. They might change over time, but they always remain relatable to you. Bob's Burgers is the best depiction of a loving and healthy family on television right now. Even though they are animated, they are still very human, and I hope it always stays that way. This is your sign to watch Bob's Burgers.